Hey guys, what's up? It's Katie and I'm back with another Marvel Contest of Champions video, and today we're going to be going over the pros and the cons of the latest champion to enter the contest. That's right, the furry man from the north, the missing link himself, Sasquatch. So let's go ahead and get into the pros before we talk about some of the cons. So the first pro that he has is he doesn't need his signature ability. While it is, you know, a nice little bonus added to him, he doesn't need it. So his signature ability is when he drops below 40% of max health and getting hit by a contact hit, he has a certain percentage or a certain percent chance, to regen a portion of his health back. Now this is dependent upon his signature ability, and also during the Wrath of Tanarak, I think I said that right, Sasquatch becomes passively unstoppable during special and heavy attacks, and the opponent's defensive combat power rate is reduced by a certain percentage when struck by these attacks. So while these are nice, they aren't necessarily needed, especially the regen, because he can get the regen off of his special 3. Another cool thing about Sasquatch is his abilities. So first things first is he is cold snap resistant. So he provides 90% cold snap resistance, similar to Omega Red's bleed resistance. And he is also immune to frostbite and armor break debuffs. So it makes him a great counter to champions not only like Iceman, but that pesky Vision Arcus as well. And another cool thing too is if his regen is reversed, so if you try to reverse heal him, it won't do that, it'll just heal block it instead. So that's kind of a neat little aspect that they added to him. Now, like most mystics, Sasquatch has a little bit of power control. So while the Wrath of Tanarak is active, while the opponent has 3 full bars of power, special and heavy attacks will power drain 5% of their max power. So what does this mean? Well, if you push your opponent to a special 3, when you're throwing a special 2, it'll drain 5% of that max power. And this is really kind of a cool thing, because while Wrath of Tanarak is active, you have an increased power rate. So this allows you to throw a special 2, do a 5-hit combo, and then you're back to a special 2 to launch it, and then bait out the special 2 from your opponent if they're not already KO'd. Now, like most mystics, Sasquatch can place a stagger, and this stagger is really easy to place. All you gotta do is land at heavy, and you can actually stack up to 2 of these staggers. But we're gonna talk about his heavy a little bit later on. Now, I know what you guys are thinking, right? He's a mystic. So what level should I run Mystic Dispersion at? And honestly, you don't need to run Mystic Dispersion with Sasquatch. And the reason for this is simple. His power rate is increased by 25% when the opponent has a buff or is suffering from a stagger. And then his specials cost less power when the Wrath is active. So if you want to increase your power rate, all you have to do is land a heavy if your opponent doesn't have a buff on them. So in all actuality, you really don't need to run Mystic Dispersion with Sasquatch, which is kind of a cool thing. So now let's talk about damage, right? Because this is kind of where he has a little bit of stuff going on for him. He can have massive special 2 damage now, and you can actually chain several of them back to back. And the reason for this is when Wrath of Tanarak is active, obviously, you have an increased power rate. So it costs 50% less power for special 1s and special 2s, and then it costs 25% less power for a special 3, but you're really not going to want to throw a special 3 or honestly a special 1. You're going to want to keep to those special 2s. Now, the really cool thing about Wrath of Tanarak 2 is Sasquatch is stun immune. So this makes him an okay option for nodes like Encroaching Stun and Stunning Reflection. All right, so now I know what you guys are thinking, right? What is that DOT that I see in the corner? Well, like Tigra, Sasquatch also has a chance to inflict a Rupture debuff. So this is great against champions that, you know, you may want to bleed that you can't. So this is kind of a cool thing. And he has a 30% chance to inflict a Rupture debuff off of his medium. So that's where you want to get those ruptures on, by throwing your mediums. And this makes him great for certain nodes like Diss Track and Clapback, because as of the recording of this video, ruptures aren't included on the lists of debuffs to be reapplied back to you on the clap back node, and you can stack a lot of these. The max I think I've gotten to was 13, so you can really stack a good number of these Rupture debuffs. Now, he does have some interesting synergies, and the best one, honestly, is this one with Sabretooth. And it's not necessarily for Sasquatch, but for Sabretooth, because once per fight, throwing a special attack 3 grants 1 persistent charge. So this really makes Sabretooth optimal. I'm sure you guys have seen the videos out there of Sabretooth. I know Karate Mike put out a video against the 6.2.6 champion boss with Sabretooth, and I gotta say, it's pretty epic. So if you haven't checked it out, make sure you check it out. And also, Sasquatch, he's not a hard champ to play. He's really simple. It's easy to get the DOT on and get up to your special 2 and launch it. Like I said before, you're not going to want to throw your special 1 or your special 3 all that much, even if you need to regen. But we'll get into that in a minute. So now that we've gone over some of the pros, let's talk about some of the cons, because there are some with Sasquatch. So first, like I said, let's talk about this regen. Now, so with his special 3, he can regenerate 10% of missing health over 5 seconds, and this is increased by a flat plus 1% per rage stack. So essentially, you know, the max that you can have is a little over 20% if you're down to 10% health. Right? It's all dependent on the number of rage stacks you have, and then of course that plus 10%. So it's really not a great regen. I wish it could have kind of been a little bit more, but it's really not all that much. Now, his power control, it's okay. It is the 5% power drain, but you need to make sure that the Wrath of Tanarak is active, because if it isn't, well, then that could just end pretty badly for you. And then I mentioned before about his heavy. So while his heavy does inflict the stagger, it's a very short reaching heavy, and to be honest, you can't really counter anything with it. So I wish it looks like his heavy should be a lot longer than what it is, and I wish it was longer reaching. I mean, he's such a big dude, right? Right. Okay, and so while he's okay without the synergies, he is sort of synergy dependent to get to his damage quickly. If you want to get the Wrath quickly, you want to get the Rage built up quickly to enter into that Wrath, you're going to want to bring some champions along with you that he has synergies with, and also to get the most out of his Ruptures and to get the most out of his Wrath in order to extend it. So having those synergies with him is super beneficial. All right, so let's talk about this Wrath, right? So the Wrath to me is very random, right? It has a 10% chance to trigger if Sasquatch has 5 or more stacks of rage. And it should honestly trigger at a specific number of rage charges. I've had it trigger at 8, I've had it trigger at 11. So it's just kind of one of those things where I feel like it should be kind of set in stone on where it is. Now, like I said, mediums build the Ruptures and lights build the rage charges. So you kind of have a little bit of control over it, but it's not the best, it's not the most reliable or ideal form to get it. The regen and the power control, they are in conjunction with the rage and the wrath, excuse me. So without having a reliable way, you know, to enter the wrath, the regen and the power control are they're just too sporadic. Now, as of right now, I can't really find a place in the game, as of the recording of this video, I should say, where Sasquatch is useful. Now, he does have some useful things going for him, but he does have some things that could have been better. Now, a lot of people are more hyped about his synergy with Sabretooth than about potentially him, and I could see why. Now, with that being said, how would I rate Sasquatch? Well, I'm going to give him 6.5 out of 10 candies. He just falls in the above average mystic class for me. But anyways, guys, that's all that I got. Let me know in the comments below, what do you think of Sasquatch? What do you think of his power control and the Wrath of Tanarak? Do you like that we have another champion with Ruptures? Do you think there should be a better way to enter the Wrath of Tanarak? Or do you think? You like how random it kind of is? Let me know in the comments below and let's discuss. As always, guys, thanks so much for watching. If you guys like what you saw and you want to see more, please remember to like and subscribe. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter and hit me up in the Discord chat. Thanks, guys. Bye.